Welcome to the demonstration for manipulating data using Minitab. I've already opened the sales, finance worksheets, and also the order fulfillment worksheet, but I would like to show you how to open the shipping. So if you go to File, Open, and I've already selected Excel files. The default is Minitab files, but I'm going to select Excel files, and we'll go for the shipping data. When you open an Excel file, it will show you a dialog box that gives you the option to change the first row to import things of that nature, last row. And now I have a new worksheet with the shipping data. If I use the worksheet manager, I now have a list of all the worksheets. Notice how the shipping data that we've pulled in has the green icon in front of it, indicating it's the current worksheet. To rename, I simply right-click, choose the last choice, and type shipping. Now, in order to make the order fulfillment data the current worksheet, I just need to double-click over here in the worksheet manager. This data needs to be transposed. So if I go to the data menu and choose transpose columns, I'd like to transpose the columns for the 24 purchase orders. I'd like to store it in a new worksheet. I'm going to call it fulfillment, and I'm going to create variable names using the information that's in PO. And now I have a new worksheet. It's called fulfillment, and it has 4 columns. The first one, labels, isn't really what I want to call it. I'd like it to be PO, so it is similar to the other worksheets. And the other concern is that this is now a text column, and I would very much like this to be numeric, so it matches the sales, finance, and shipping worksheets. So if I go to data, change data type, I can change the data type of PO. To select it, I can either highlight it and hit select, or use double click, and I will choose it to be automatic numeric. The date received now is in numeric format. I'd like it to be in date and time. There through the edit last dialog box. Now instead of PO, I'd like to have the 3 date columns, and instead of numeric, I'd like them to be in a date format, and I get to choose, the display, and I'd like a simple date format. And now what I've saved is dates in month, day, year. Now we're ready to do some merging. All of the worksheets are separate, and in order to do analysis on all data, I need to bring them together. So I'm going to start with the sales data because that's, the original data. These are all the bids that have been made, but not all of the bids turned into purchase orders. And I'd like to merge that with the finance data. So if I go to the data menu and choose merge worksheets, and we're going to match values. Okay? I'm going to merge the sales worksheet with the finance worksheet, and I'm going to do it by columns. And the column that I would like to match is the bid. And I'm not going to include any multiple observations or unmatched observations. When I go to include columns, these are all of the columns from the sales worksheet. These are all of the columns from the finance worksheet. I do not need columns that have the same information. Although they both have a column called value, the value in the sales is the value that the bid went out at. The value in finance is the value that the purchase order was ultimately written under. Okay? And I'm just going to call this M1. Now I have a new worksheet called M1. It has all the data together, but only the bids included that were actually converted to a purchase order. And there are 2 columns that start with value. Value colon sales is the information that was contained in the sales worksheet, and value colon finance is the value that was contained in the finance worksheet. And now I'd like to add the fulfillment data to this as well. So again, I have to go back to data, merge worksheets, match values, and I'm going to take M1 and merge that with fulfillment by columns. And now instead of bid number, we're actually using the PO. Notice they don't have to have the exact same variable name. They just have to have information that will match. And again, I don't want to include multiple observations or unmatched observations. And we'll take a look here. And there's really, PO is the only duplicate information that we don't need to have. And we'll call this one M2. So I've been able to take the 4 separate data sets, and since they all had a linking variable, namely the purchase order number, had to be bid between sales and finance, but after that everything had a purchase order number, I was able to match them up one by one. And I can sort this data. I want to sort all of the columns by the date shipped. So I find date shipped, sort all columns. Now, the choices down here are either at the end of the current worksheet. I'd really like to put it back in the original columns. And so now, instead of being sorted by the PO number necessarily, it's sorted by the date that it was shipped. The last thing we're going to do is demonstrate the split worksheet. What I'd like to do is use the worksheet manager to go back to the sales information, because I'd like to, this information has all of the bids that were made. And I'd like to split this worksheet by the salesperson. And now I end up with 4 new worksheets, one for each of the 4 salespeople. If we take a look, these are all of the bids that were made by Ed. Last but not least, let's take a look at how to save. We'll save the project. I'll save the project as here in my file, and I'm going to call it PO Tracking. Thanks for your attention. Now it's your turn to give it a try.